Hello internet friends! What you're going to see here in the background are some unreleased maps from the Serygalacaffeine project. I spent quite a bit of time trying to detail these and make them fun to navigate, so I feel it would be a shame if no one would ever get to see them. And that is just the topic of today's video. I'm going to quit making these games. Now this is a process that has been going on for quite a while, but I feel that now is a very good time to leave a hobby behind that has brought me a lot of joy throughout the years, and that allowed me to make online friends from around the world. I even made a little bit of money here and there, but things just have changed too much. I was having an evening to myself and was tinkering on one of my games, and I just noticed that my heart is no longer in it. It felt like a chore, and just thinking about all the work that would still be ahead of me, all the characters that needed to be voiced, the weapons that needed to be rigged, the encounter design, the 3D modeling, the trial and error of scripting. I think I've just fallen out of love with game design as a hobby, especially trying to make these entire campaigns, which is what I'm always really aspiring to. At least the way I used to do this for the past 20 years almost. I'm also doing everything for an increasingly smaller audience. I mean, I deleted my really old videos, but if you look at the trajectory here on screen, you can see the kind of very small hobbyist indie development just doesn't have the same kind of engagement and community it used to have. And for me, this hobby has really been all about community. I do realize that my earlier releases came out in a very different time and a very different culture on YouTube and around indie gaming in general, and that it was mostly random chance, really, that my old games had as much exposure as they had. But really it's only one of the reasons why I decided to put this to rest. I have released over half a dozen games during my time, and a lot of you guys were truly excellent. Especially I have to thank everyone who has tested my games, who has really written me detailed feedback. I also just feel that the game Serygalacaffeine Renegade was a good last game for my Game Guru run, and I feel like I did what I wanted to make with this engine, like I wanted to show what it can do. Way too late. I mean, the moment has passed, the world has long moved on from Game Guru Classic. There's still a relatively small community, but there's still a community around Game Guru Max. But yes, I just feel that my time with the game creators in general is just over. The game Serygalacaffeine Renegade has been cut short. I will link the title in the description if you're interested. It's 4 levels of gameplay. Same with Atropos Mandate. I felt like that was a good last game for me, an FPS creator. I have pretty much done with FPSC what I wanted to do, thanks to Black Ice Mod. Yeah, both will be linked in the description. As you may have noticed, this will be a longer video, and it's really just me giving my personal experiences and perspectives on making these types of games as a hobby. I fully realize that this is not going to interest the overwhelming majority of people that might click on this. But hey, this is my channel, and I feel like I want to talk about this in detail, and honestly, I just make this for some old friends that might be in a similar boat as me, and for people that have been along for the ride throughout the years. You may know my friend Duchenkyuk, aka DK Productions, has also quit making these games recently, albeit for completely different reasons. This made me kind of introspective in a way, meaning that also in this video I would like to reflect and complain a little bit. So okay, first I will give you my reasoning, then I will talk a bit about making games in general and what it used to mean to me. So the big reason, I never really cared much about popularity. I mean, making hobby games in a niche engine or maker software isn't going to make you popular. Anyway, at least not on the internet. I don't know what your social circle is like. But there used to be this great sense of community, and it was a huge part of this hobby to interact, learn, and just chat with talented, creative, and sometimes a little crazy people from all over the world. The internet has changed. The communities have changed, just flat out. That is to be expected to some degree, because I got started when I bought an old game magazine that had a few RPG Maker games on it, and that was almost 20 years ago. The idea that I could make my very own video games just drew me right in. Back then there were no easily accessible industrial strength game engines around like today. Making video games as a hobby was far more niche. But yeah, it was just a fun time from the beginning. I didn't dabble much with RPG Maker as I always wanted to make something 3D. I was always passionate about 3D. I tried all kinds of weird Franken software that some computer science student cobbled together back then. Until I found FPS Creator in 2006, which really was also some weird Franken software. That was when I got hooked to the seeming and treacherous simplicity of TGC Maker engines. I did some experiments with DuckBasic Pro 2, but never got further than having geometric shapes I could move around with the arrow keys. As I said, almost 20 years ago, it's kind of natural that the web would change, but before everything got consolidated into social media and like fucking Reddit posts, there were numerous smaller forums with very active communities, and you would chat over instant messaging services like the MSN Messenger and ICQ. There was more one-on-one discussion as compared with the largely dormant or too anonymous game dev Discord servers of today. The forums had extremely dedicated members, and lots of them. I first joined the German FPS Creator forum, that was ages ago. It was a little bit more elitist, but in a good way really. People tried to push each other to learn new skills, and improve were also trying to push the engine along. If you remember, the EFX mod and some of the best looking games of that time came from that community. I joined the official TGC forums later, but here criticism, even when it was constructive, was a bit less prevalent, and you weren't really supposed to. It was expected that no matter what someone posts, there would be some kind of positive spin on it. I suppose there's also just a cultural difference between Germany and the Anglosphere about that kind of thing. So the tone was different, but the community was growing on me, and I made some friends I am still talking to this day. I have seen some of them get their degrees and go on into game-related careers, and sadly a few have also passed away. I mean, it's a 20-year time frame, you can imagine. Still, the pool of talent and mods and really just a sense of community has been growing exponentially. By the end, FPS Creator mutated from a little time-waster toy, really, for kids, into a game engine with some pretty cool features. Honestly, none of us expected it to have. Most of that was community input. I mean, hell, AirMod, the aiming and gun sway system in Game Guru and also Game Guru Max, started out as an FPS Creator mod made by a teenager. I think the kid was 17 years old at the time. Also, please keep in mind that the whole indie umbrella was still pretty new at the time, and you had far more interactions with your projects. So if you had something online, even if it was just conceptual or screenshots, people would take notice and sometimes comment, give feedback. This was before Steam Greenlight, so it was really a different time. There was also, for the longest time, there was no money in it. Not really. You would do it for the passion of the project. There was no, oh, I'm going to finish this game and put it on Steam and it's gonna sell. I mean, I suppose that's a possibility, but I've never really seen it in FPS Creator or Game Guru. I mean, the only FPS Creator game I've seen actually sell was Into the Dark, but that developer also had industry ties and knew how to market a game. If the idea is to just make something in a Maker engine or in Game Guru and put it on Steam, I'm not going to say that it's impossible. If this is your dream and you are really dead set on it, then I wish you the best luck, but it's not very likely that this is going to make you any significant money. You might make enough money to get back the money you have spent on asset packs and development costs in general, I mean music, voice acting, but it's not going to be a second income. At least I've never seen anyone actually do that. Who knows, maybe Game Guru Max will be awesome in the future and really good games will be made in it that will sell. I don't know, I just doubt it, given that I have been in this hobby and this community for so long. Yes, so back in the day, everyone involved was either a kid with a big dream or genuinely there for the love of the craft and passion for the subject. Tools were harder to come by, there was way more overlap with the modding scene. also just cool people, especially back then. And yeah, people were generally interested in improving their skills, so you would talk a lot with people who could do something you could not. Other people would contact you and wanted to learn from you. There was this social aspect to it that really drew me in. Oh, and before social media took over, there were also way more personal websites. So it was just entertaining and fun to scour the web for models and media. If you found someone's blog with 3 skyboxes and a couple of 3D models, that was a real find. That was a real treasure. Nowadays, even if you actually handcraft a lot of your models like me, someone might recognize like, oh, I don't know, a barrel or box or something, and assume that everything is from an asset store. I even had questions like that, like what asset pack is that, even though it was my own stuff. So it's expected that even if you do something cool, you probably bought that somewhere. There used to be no asset stores, of course. There used to be Turbo Squid, and no one could fucking afford Turbo Squid. So we had to learn and make do with what we had. The first time I really felt that shift in attitude was when someone made an animated T-Rex. Let me repeat that, it was an animated T-Rex for Game Guru, and nobody really cared. Like, there were a couple of comments, but an animated, pre-scripted working T-Rex would have been the bomb for any of the older engines. But in the 2010s, there was an apathy and just disinterest for other people's work compared to the past starting to set in. There was less chatter, as the novelty of being in contact with people from all around the world who also like to make games, it just became normalized. So less people interested in each other's projects, and just the whole vibe shifted. Don't get me wrong, there were still awesome people around, but you could tell that social media drove away interaction from niche interest boards, and they quickly became a thing of the past, really. Then we had Discord servers. Personal websites have also been increasingly replaced with platforms like itch, GameJolt, IndieDB, and so on. Networking just became different. There was more arguing and toxicity setting in. People just fishing for attention and compliments about what often were just a bunch of stock assets thrown together. I often get the feeling that people would show their work just to get compliments, like get a little dopamine going, instead of getting any kind of feedback from other developers. You could show a video of a game that would run at like 10 FPS, and if you pointed out, they would say, yeah, it's because the engine is garbage. But lo and behold, someone else's project who actually optimized his game would run at a decent frame rate. Yeah, there was just no interest in improving anything. Recently, I have also encountered this shift in attitude when I pointed out, as I did earlier, that it's not very likely that you will make serious money off your hobby game. The immediate reaction is, oh, it's just a waste of time then. Okay, I can see why you might think this way, but it's a creative hobby. Most people that play music or paint also don't make money of it. Doubly so if you make something in Game Guru Max or FPS Creator. I mean, I don't want to come across as overly critical, but let's be real. Anything you can do in a TGC engine, gameplay-wise, has been done better in some ancient source mod from like 2008. And while I honestly love some one-man indie games I've played, it's extremely rare to find one that is worth a price tag. But as I said, if this is something you want to try, if this is something you think you can do, and you know how hard it's going to be and how much work is going to be implied, and you know that if you want to sell it, it's going to need to be stable, it's going to need to be custom to some degree, it cannot just be a bunch of assets from the store. If you want to make any decent money and have any decent reputation of your game, if you know this, then, I mean, by all means, make a quality game, sell it, prove me wrong. I'm just generally saying this because it's just how I experienced this going for many, many developers who tried this, then got the harsh criticism or got no sales, no real feedback, and they didn't have a good time with this, of course. I still generally feel that if you want to do this in any professional capacity, it's good to learn a different engine. I mean, you can learn some skills using a TGC engine, you can learn modeling, you can learn level design, all these things. But if you're going to work on a project that you want to sell and support long term, It's just common sense not to go make a Game Guru game. I'm sorry. And yes, the people who are just coming now into this community and who are already convinced that their first game, no prior experience of course, but their first game is going to sell on Steam, otherwise it's just a waste of time. That's just no longer my vibe. Nothing against those people, they can do what they want, it's just not really the type of community I want to hang out in. Personally, I mean. As I said, if you have a successful game, I would love to see it, prove me wrong. I just don't see it happening. Also, making games has always been a somewhat solitary hobby. One could do at home on the computer. So there were always some people around who were a bit peculiar and maybe haven't had the best social graces. Still, all the one-man game studios with big aspirations but no interest whatsoever in even learning the basics, it can be grating. Especially with how common it has become. You also have this in Unity and UE of communities, of course, but in the niche ones, it's like you have less members, so you see more of this. I'm also not attacking anyone personally, it's just a general attitude I come across more. There's also no real effort to highlight the people that do tremendously good work, by the way. That used to be the case with the communities, with the forums. It all kind of gets lumped together and just vanishes in the Discord chat timeline. And in some scattered YouTube videos you might find, you might not find, may the algorithm decide, no real cohesion. Recently I saw someone with some demo who wanted feedback and he used different gun packs. That basically means that one set of guns had leather gloves and a jacket, the other one had bare arms and hands. So it would completely switch the style of the biggest thing that you have on screen in a first-person shooter. Whenever you went from pistol to rifle. So I just pointed that out, very friendly, but that complaint was then dubbed a nitpick. And he used to be crucified for doing that in the old communities. Correctly so, I mean that is such an obvious design flaw. But no, it's just a nitpick. The game is still great, nothing about it was great, but of course you can say that that is just my personal opinion, but I believe there are also objective quality markers, and having all the guns rigged to the same set of hands is one of them. So yes, there's a lot of this kind of attitude and people being argumentative. It's just, I no longer want to be part of that. Especially with the fleeting nature of Discord, where I see some people that generally try, just get buried, as I said earlier. I stay in contact with many good men from the old days and we have a little community, but other than that it's just not what it used to be. Man, if you are in your 30s and you compare the internet of Europe back in the day to what it is now, I mean, yeah, it's more sanitized, more convenient and modern, but also way less fun. I mean, it was really the Wild West back then. So yes, this is the big one. Community, sense of community. Most of my friends who still make games use other engines too, so... And I do other creative things as well. I make music, I paint. But that is something more common. As I said, it used to be really uncommon to make video games as a hobby. It's gotten pretty common now. Just as making music is painting, and there's even less sense of community. Especially if you aren't young and full of aspirations anymore, where you still have dreams that you're going to make it big. I just do it as a hobby. I'm fully aware that it's just not... I make my living elsewhere. Let's put it that way. I stuck around making games as well, not just for the community, but also because it was just such a nice little refuge from day-to-day life for me. Making games has always allowed me to be creative, especially during times in my early 20s where I had quite a few very monotonous jobs. I mean, video games need writing, scripting, modeling sounds, textures, music, voice acting, internal artwork, and so much cool stuff to learn. I mean, yeah, you can just buy all that now and let an AI make your title screen and fucking do nothing at all yourself. But yes, technically there is so much work that goes into making a game and so much things that you have to learn, things that are creative, that are really challenging to you. And if you're in your first service level job, it's really good to have something that gets your brain working a little bit. It's been a part of my free evenings for way over a decade now. But as I said, with the community being so fractured and most of my friends using vastly different tools, those that are even still active, that is, I have chosen to look for another creative hobby and just make games for myself in Unreal Engine. No real timeline. I just want to be able to creatively make what I want, even if the gameplay and the overall polish and quality might not be good enough for other people to enjoy it, you know. I will of course remain in the communities I'm active in. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm still going to be around in the Discords. But yes, this is really going to be the end for me. Oh, and another thing. Well, I never wanted that much random attention online. I mean, that's never really good. Unless you want to be an influencer or something, but those people live in a different world than I do. It was actually also a bit uncomfortable when back in 2010 one of my games has gotten a lot of attention. Because I didn't expect that, and suddenly there were YouTube videos about it. Kinda cool, kinda weird. But it was always nice to just have a small audience and get some feedback of what you make. Lately, however, despite my games having improved in quality to some degree, and I mean a significant degree to be honest, I mean, I always tried to make my own Deus Ex, even my own Morrowind for a while, but never quite got there, of course. Lately there's just been zero engagement. Just, yeah, the moment has passed, as I said earlier. And yeah, making games that are then played by vanishingly few people, even in their own engine community, it just isn't fun anymore. Right, I think I have rambled on long enough. Thank you if you have been listening to me. As I said, this has been a hobby for many, many years for me, so this was no easy decision to make. But I just see and feel more and more that the scene and community I grew up with has changed into something completely different. I'm just older and no longer with it, as the Simpson joke goes. This channel here, I might do a video here and there of some old stuff of mine. If I dig something up, I will show cool games by other people that I come across. And I will post whatever I do in Unreal Engine. This will, however, be a much smaller project and will be way in the future. I will let the maps play out, and yes, for now, I wish you all the best. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.